Lesson 12 is on decimal numbers. 12 says, written practice number 1 says, Lashana passed back 140 papers. If these papers were in stacks of 28, how many papers did Lashana pass back? This is an equal groups problem from section 4, or lesson 4. And the format for that is that you take the total number of items, and in this case that would be the stacks, times the number in each stack, 28, and that gives you the total 140 papers. Well, to figure out one of the factors, you take the product and you divide it by the factor that you know. So 140 divided by 28. Well, 30 would go into 140 about 4 times. So let's try 5. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 4 is 14. So 140. So it goes in, and there are 5 stacks. Number 2 deals with average. The players on the junior high basketball team had heights of 71 inches, 69 inches, 69 inches, 67 inches, and 64 inches. What was the average height of the players on the team? So when you're finding average, they're talking about mean, and you add up all the numbers and divide by how many there are. So 71 plus 69 plus 69 plus 67 plus 64. That adds up to 340. And then you take 340 and divide it by 5, how many players there were. And you get 68 inches as the mean. And that little symbol right here is inches. Identify the plot, write an equation, and solve. This week, Kay ran a mile in 8 minutes 6 seconds. Last week, her time was 8 minutes 25 seconds. How much did her time improve? This is a comparing. We're looking at how something is different. So the plot is comparing. And the equation for comparing is the greater number minus the lesser number equals the difference. So the greater number is 8 minutes 25 seconds minus the lesser number, which is 8 minutes 6 seconds. And that equals the difference. And then the solution, since they both have 8 minutes, then what we're really looking for is 25 seconds minus 6 seconds is what? And that's a difference of 9 seconds. Using prime factorization, reduce 50 over 75. Well, the first thing that I would do is write a factor tree for each of 50 and 75. That's the easiest way I know to find prime factorization. So 50 factors of 50 could be 10 and 5. Factors of 10 are 2 and 5. And 5's already prime. And then factors of 75 are 25 and 3. And factors of 25 are 5 and 5. 3 is already prime. So 50 written in prime factorization is 2 times 5 times 5. And 75 written in prime factorization is 3 times 5 times 5. And then what we do is we go through and we cross out the things that are in common. There's a 5 here and here, 5 on top and bottom here. So what's left is just 2/3. So 50 over 75 equals 2/3. Use words to write 4.02. Well, if you have that chart handy, this is the tenths place here and the hundredths place here. So our number ends in the hundredths place. So we look at it as that as a number. 02 I would read as 2. So this is going to be written as 4. The decimal point is and then I'd say 2, and since it ends in the hundredths place, hundredths, 4 and 2/100ths. And number 6, it says write as a decimal, 5/8. So remember that fractions are actually division, so you would do 5 divided by 8. The way that you do something that's smaller divided by 8 is you add a decimal point. So 8 can't go into 5, but it can go into 50. I can put as many zeros after a decimal point as I want, and it doesn't change the number 5. 5.0 is the same thing as 5.00000. All of those are equal to 5. So 8 goes into 50 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. 50 minus 48 is 2. So since I have a remainder, I'm going to add another 0. And then I'm going to bring that down. So 8 goes into 20 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. 20 minus 16 is 4. Since I have a remainder, I'm going to add another 0 and bring that down. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. 40 minus 40 is 0. So since I'm done with, I don't have a remainder, then my decimal for 5/8 is 0.625. Then we want to take and convert 0.17 to a fraction. Well, again, we want to know what place it ends in. This is the tenths, hundredths, so it ends in the hundredths place. So as a fraction, it would be 17 hundredths. 17 over 100. How much money is 15% of 60? Well, the easy way to figure out percents is to deal with tens. 10% of anything, you take the decimal point and you move it one place over to the left. So if I have $60, then the decimal point is right after the 0 after the 60. So 10% of 60 means I move the decimal point over one place to the left. So 10% of 60 is $6. Okay, and then for 15%, we need 5%, more than 10. Well, 5% is half of 10%. Okay, half of 10%. Well, 10% was 6. So 5% is $3. Half of 6, half of 10% is half of 6, which is $3. So then, sorry for the stuff in the middle there, 10 plus 15, 10% plus 5% is 15%. 10% we said was $6, plus 5% we said was $3. So 15% of 60 is $9. Complete the equivalent fraction. So I ask myself, how do I go from 7 to 35? Well, I would have to multiply 7 by 5 to get 35. Whatever I do on the bottom, I have to do on the top. 1 times 5 is 5. So 1/7 is the same thing as 5/35. And the next one, it asks us to compare 5/5 and 7/7. Anytime you have a number over itself in a fraction, it means divided by itself. 5 divided by 5 would be 1. 7 divided by 7 would be 1. So those two are actually equal. And that's the case anytime you have 4/4, 2 halves, 8/8. It will always be 1. For problems 11 and 12, refer to the figure at the right. So, to figure out this side length over here, I need to know that this part up to here takes 5 meters. And then I'm going to add on this part right here, which is 2 meters. So 5 plus 2 gives me 7 meters for that part. So now for the perimeter, all I do is I go through and I add up all the sides. Put that 7 back on there. So I have 7 on top, plus 7 on the right, plus 4 on the bottom, plus 5 on the left, plus 3 on the bottom of that, plus 2 on the left there. 7 and 7 is 14, and 4 is 18, and 5 is 23, and 3 is 26, and 2 is 28. And the units for perimeter are the same units that you see in the diagram, always. Then we're going to find the area. And for the area, we need to break it into 2 different rectangles. The easiest one is this one, since we have both sides. This area is going to be 2 times 3, which is 6. And the area of this will be 4 times 7, which is 28. So then we add those 2 pieces together. 6 plus 28 equals 34. And then the units for area are the units they give you squared. Brad mowed the field for 4 hours and mowed 2 acres per hour. How many acres did Brad mow? Well, if I mowed 2 acres per 1 hour, remember per means divided or fraction bar, then to cancel these out and be just left with acres, the hours need to go on top of my next fraction. And then that'll just be over 1 since it's just straight 4 hours. And then multiply anything on top. 2 times 4 is 8 acres. Mrs. Osono or Mr. Osono was paid $168 for 8 hours of work. What was his hourly rate of pay? Well, hourly rate of pay means how many dollars were you paid per hour. So we want dollars on top of hours. So $168 per 8 hours, or 168 divided by 8. 8 goes into 16 twice. 2 times 8 is 16. And then 8 goes into 8 once. So $21 per hour. Find the perimeter of a square with side length 9 meters. Well, if it's a square, that means all 4 sides are 9 meters. So to find the perimeter, all we do is multiply 9 by 4, which is 36, and perimeter's units are the units that they give you in the problem, meters. For problems 16 through 18, find the missing number and state the property illustrated. So in the first one, 6 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 6, and that is the commutative property And since we're multiplying, of multiplication. Number 17, 4 plus in parentheses 5 plus 1 is the same thing as 4 plus 5 in parentheses plus 1. And that is by the associative property. And since it's addition, of addition. And then the last one, 6½ plus 1 1/8 is the same thing as 1 1/8 plus 6½. And that is the commutative property. And since it's addition of addition. Commutative properties say that the order that you do things, multiplying or adding, does not matter. The associative properties say that the grouping, meaning where you put the parentheses, if you're multiplying or adding, doesn't matter. Compare. Well, the absolute value of -2 is just 2, so those two are equal. And then 3/4 or 3/8. Well, if I have a pi over here that's cut into fourths, and I shade 3 of them, that's what it looks like. And if I have a pi over here that's cut into eighths, and I shade 3 of them, that's what that looks like. So clearly, 3/4 is larger. 3/4 is more than half. 3/8 is less than half. That's another way to look at it. The shaded parts that they give us, well, this one is 1/2, and this one, 3 is shaded out of the 6 total. So what they're showing us is that 1/2 is equal to 3/6. The product of two numbers is 10. Their sum is 7. So if I take a number, let's call it n, and multiply it by another number, q, I get 10. I'm going to use a different symbol for multiply. And then if I take those same two and add them, I get 7. Well, the numbers that work for that are 2 and 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Whoops. And then 2 plus 5 is 7. The product of two numbers is 6 now. So if I take x times y, I get 6. And their difference, x minus y, is 1. Well, to get 6, there's two options, 2 times 3 or 1 times 6. Well, 2 times 3 would work out for the second one. 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 minus 2 is 1. Arrange from least to greatest. Well, the one that's most negative is the least, so that's this one here. And then 1/2, if I wrote it as a decimal, would be 0.5, which is more negative than 0.12. The number 4 is a member of which sets of numbers? If it's -4, then the only one that it's a member of is integers. Integers include negative numbers. List all prime numbers between 0 and 20. Well, the easiest way to do that is to list all of the numbers. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, they are not prime if they are even because you can divide it by 2. And you can divide 0 by anything. So 0 is not prime, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Then let's go through and find the ones that I can divide by 3. I can divide 3 by 3, 9 by 3, and 15 by 3. And that leaves us, in this case, with our prime numbers. So 1, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, and 19. None of those are divisible by 2, 3, 4. Oops, I gotta take out the 5. I missed that one. 5 is divisible by 5. Alright, my brain obviously is not working for me. 5 is prime. Write the prime factorization of 60. Well, again, to do that, you do a factor tree. 6 times 10 would work. 6 has factors of 2 and 3, and 10 has factors of 5 and 2. So the prime factorization would be 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. What is 2/3? What is 2/3 of 18? That means multiply 18 times 2/3, which means 18 times 2 divided by 3. 18 times 2 is 36, divided by 3 is 12. Suzanne is collecting money for t-shirts from the 12 members of her band section. Each shirt costs $11.40. What is the total amount she should collect? Well, if there are 12 members and each shirt is $11.40, you would multiply those two and you get $136.80. Darren ran 3 miles in 27 minutes. At that rate, how long will it take him to run 5 miles? So 27 minutes per 3 miles. And then to cancel out miles and just have minutes, my miles needs to go on top of my next one. So 5 miles over 1. 27 divided by 3. And then times 5. 27 divided by 3 is 9, times 5 is 45. And minutes are my units since I haven't crossed them out. Then we have 18.7 plus 9.04. When you're adding or subtracting decimals, you line up the decimal point. You can add zeros to be placeholders. So 0 plus 4 is 4, 7 plus 0 is 7, 8 plus 9 is 17, 1 plus 1 is 2. Then we're going to subtract 1.809. And again, add a placeholder. So I got to borrow from the 4, make it a 3. 10 minus 9 is 1. 3 minus 0 is 0. 7 minus 8, I can't do it, so I need to borrow. 17 minus 8 is 9. 6 minus 1 is 5. And 2 minus 0 is 2. And then you just drop that decimal point right where it lines up.